Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Rafae Iqbal, and in today's show we'll be discussing making Gawadar a gateway for Pakistan's economic prosperity. Of course, Gawadar port, one of the biggest project of the Pakistan-China economic corridor as well, and of course a very important economic asset of Pakistan. With regards to that, we know in Gawadar the international airport was also inaugurated recently, and the first flight that landed there was also of the Pakistan International Airlines. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif congratulated the nation, and of course the Deputy Prime Minister also congratulated the nation on this historic milestone, paving the way for, of course, increased air traffic into Gawadar as a result of this international airport that has been inaugurated, which will give further impetus to, of course, enhance trade and business activity in the region as well. Pakistan has recently announced plans to import 50% of its key items, including wheat, sugar and fertilizer, through the Gawadar port. And the government also aims to further increase export rates from this strategic international trade hub in the future, as this port is not only essential for Pakistan's trade, but also serves as a critical economic asset for the Balochistan province, as it will give impetus to, of course, increased employment opportunities and increased business activities in the country, as the SIFC is also focused on capitalizing on the untapped potential in the country, such as mines and minerals, such as agriculture, IT and blue economy as well, and other different aspects. And we know Balochistan itself being rich in mines and minerals, this will give an impetus to, of course, increase in the mine and mineral sector. We'll be talking about all the different aspects regarding the Gawadar port, its inauguration and the implications it is going to have for Pakistan's economic development. In the studios, we've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi. Along with that, we've been joined by geopolitical analyst Faisal. And on Skype, we've been joined by Shakeel Ahmad Ramay, who is a political economy expert. Thank you all for your time and being part of the conversation. Starting off from Mr. Shakeel, of course. With this inauguration of the international airport in Gawadar, with the Gawadar port becoming functional now, of course, how do you see its prospects for Pakistan's economy, as the efforts so much underway for economic revitalization going on?
Thank you, Rafi. I think when we talk about the connectivity hub, there are three indicators which we have to look into. One is the sea transportation, second is the air, and the third is the road. So if we look at the two first ones, the sea and the air, so they are the completed now. So we have the one of the biggest airport at the Gawadar. We have one of the functional and the very important port is there. Now Pakistan is working on the third dimension on the road transportation network. Because to make these two initiatives successful, we need a sound and a well-functional road transport network. Because if we have to import something, then we have to transport it to the other part of the country. For that purpose, we need railway, we need that road transportation system, where Pakistan is putting effort to make it happen as soon as possible. By saying that, so this has opened new avenues for the business opportunity also. Because when we talk about Gawadar, we always talk about the Gawadar port, but we miss the one or two more very important links. One is the special economic zone, which Pakistan and China is working to establish there. And there are 46 Chinese companies and other companies, they have shown the interest to invest in that special economic zone. The first phase of that economic zone has been completed, and I think there is the 6 Chinese companies are working there actively. One is some of them, they have invested in the agriculture products. Some has actually also contributing in other finished products. But when the security situation will be improved, which the Pakistan is very much conscious and putting a lot of efforts, so that economic zones will become a new economic activity hub. Because from there, it will be very easy to import the raw material and export the finished products to the other parts of the world. That's what China was doing in the Shenzhen for the larger part in the past. So that special economic zone is equally important. And the third dimension, which we also need to be very conscious when we're talking about connectivity hub, not only for the region and the extra region, but also beyond the extra region also. If we look around the trade between ASEAN and the European Union, so the European Union is the biggest trade partner for the ASEAN after China, and they are exporting, the ASEAN countries are exporting from here to the European Union. If we bring those investment and offer the ASEAN countries to invest in Pakistan or Gawadar, so that distance will be substantially decreased. When their distance will be substantially increased, so their cost of production will also be go down, and then the both cost will be go down to their products will become more competitive in the European market. We can also attract the investment from here. So Gwadar is not only just you can say the port or the air, but it will also create a lot of business opportunities if Pakistan execute its policy wisely. Why I'm saying wisely? Right now, we are not allowing many business community people to travel there due to we can understand there are security reasons, but we have to overcome those security reasons if we really want to benefit from those opportunities.
Definitely, very well that you've highlighted all these different aspects, and of course, it is a very pragmatic approach for Pitafi. I'd like to include your comments as well with regards to, of course, Gawadar Port and the international airport as a balance of between connectivity and economic development of not only the region but, of course, the country at large.
Right. Thank you very much, Rafae. I think today I'm going to use my voice sparingly because of the flu that is in the air. But if I will try to answer your question, but if I break into a cough, please forgive me.
No
right?
problem.
This is a request to all the audiences as well. Now, you know, I've been going to Gawadar every year, and one thing that stands out is its previous airport. Every time you go there, we talk a great game about this. It is going to be this. It is going to be that. But what happens is that first introduction to the city is the airport used to be the most dilapidated airport in the country. I remember the kind of facilities they had, the kind of planes that used to go there as well. But thanks to CPEC, thanks to our Chinese friends, they do it magically, right? Very quickly, and they stick to their targets. We have seen many examples in Gawadar. One is the example of China Center there. And amazingly, because they thought that you know, local hotels were thinking that they have a monopoly and they were ripping off, they constructed their better than any hotel in the region. You know, China Center in 6 months, and I've stayed there. It is one of the state-of-the-art places, right? Amazing work. So now finally we have an airport which is up to the international standards. This is the first thing. Without foot traffic, Rafae, no dream can become reality. Of course, there is the issue that was mentioned by our friend Ramay, Shakeel, that their you know, security concerns persist, and it was very difficult to actually communicate or you know, move between places. But the fact is that all becomes real, all becomes you know, easy when there is enough attention to the city. So now because we have the airport, we have a port, we have the economic zone, and we also have you know, many places marked for various economic activities. Now what we have to do is we have to wait and see. It is like opening a shop. Once you have opened a shop, you wait and see how quickly investors or you know, customers come. We have been marketing this, but the government of Pakistan has done an incredible job in building the network of roads. Our Chinese brethren have done a great job. But then in the end, when you talk about economic zone and the port itself, one thing is for sure, you'll have to, because the agreement that we actually struck with Singapore Authority, it was that you have to hand over the entire coast clear of any possessions of any other group, right? Unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. Without that, our actual lease does not start, and it is a long lease. So what I am hoping in coming days, what we see is the Chinese actually can progress, the company can actually start utilizing according to the lease agreement, so that eventually once this contract is over, Pakistan actually can work with Chinese to actually further improve this city.
Definitely, and of course, efforts are going to be underway for that, as Shakeel also mentioned, with regards to the special economic zones that will also be apart or as CPEC enters its phase 2. Raja Faisal, I'd like your comments as well. If we talk about the Gawadar port, the Gawadar International Airport, of course, a partnership between China and Pakistan, of course, Gawadar being one of the key components of the China-Pakistan economic corridor. A lot of progress has been made, and of course, as CPEC enters its second phase as well, what would you comment on this great milestone achieved by this partnership?
And before you start, very quickly, I wanted to correct myself. It is not a lease, it is an agreement, by the way. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Rafae, I think it's an excellent question, and I'll start, by the way, I'll talk in 3 phases. Phase 1 would be, of course, it would further look like, explanation to whatever our very good friend Shakeel Ramay, he has said. By the way, I just wanted to mention that I am an avid reader of his articles. He is excellent when it comes to CPEC. And obviously, in the first phase of my talk, I want to highlight that such an opportunity it is for Pakistan, of course, for China as well, but it is more for Pakistan, I must say. Reason being, deep sea port we had always been talking about, and of course now there is a better connectivity in terms of sea, in terms of air, and yes, on the roads, of course, that would be further improved as well. SCZs, as Shakeel has rightly pointed out, 46 companies, they've already shown the tendencies to, of course, engage in the SCZs, special economic zones, when they are up and running and booming. Of course, it would be a huge milestone that can be achieved by Pakistan's economy. And the location itself is like an opening door to the Gulf states, GCC states, and of course, when we talk about GCCs, they are one of the most proficient economies of the world. And if Pakistan is a kind of door to GCCs, it can obviously be very important for Pakistan as well, because this port there at the door, I think it would grab on further business from them as well. And we shouldn't be forgetting that GCCs, they are having very good economic relations with China as well, and their trade relations, and that trade, of course, will be shifted towards Pakistan as well when Gawadar is up and running. The second phase is related to what kind of opportunities, further opportunities we can discuss and we can talk about. I mean, very recently I met with one of the diplomats from Kazakhstan, and he highlighted that his president, he has huge remarks for Gawadar, for of course Pakistan's and China's endeavor as a CPEC, and he actually highlighted that it is a wish of Kazakhstan that somehow CPEC can be connected to Central Asian republics through Afghanistan and ends up in obviously Europe through Russia. That would be another opportunity for Pakistan. And knowing the facts on grounds that with the Central Asian republics and even with the obviously Afghanistan as well, long-standing cultural relations and then territorial relations that we enjoy, and the kind of religion can play a role as well. And we have natural relations with all of these Central Asian republics once CPEC is up and running, and we have jumped over the barriers which are created in the middle, especially related to security when it comes to Afghanistan. I think it would be an excellent way forward for CPEC, for Pakistan, and for China as well. And rest of the world can get a connectivity to the Central Asian republics and even to Russia from this side as well. We always talk about the warm waters. Here are the warm waters, and here is the deep sea port that is connected to China, that can be connected to Russia through Central Asian republics and Afghanistan, and it would be a win-win situation for all of the countries. The third phase of my of course talk is going to be the security challenge, and we shouldn't be forgetting that the security challenge is mainly from the spoiler on our eastern border. Obviously our eastern neighbor, of course India I'm talking about, they have been investing in terrorism in Pakistan, and in Pakistan, when they hit CPEC or CPEC related, of course, endeavors of Pakistan and China, they actually mean that they want to hit both Pakistan as well as China. In a way, whenever Chinese are hit in Pakistan by the stakes of India, it means that they are, of course, trying to score against China in Pakistan. Why they are doing it, and why they are coming up with the Chabahar type of stunts? The only reason behind it is that they are spoilers. They will always remain spoilers. Otherwise, if they had any iota of decency left in themselves, then they should have easily come up with Pakistan, and of course honor the existence of Gawadar and try to do business through Pakistan, through Gawadar. And if they had any sort of iota of respect left for humanity, then they should have come towards joining hands with Pakistan for the business, for the cooperation, for the positive cooperation, rather than simply trying to spoil everything, trying to send in and obviously facilitate and finance terrorism within Pakistan. And that is why all of the security related aspects which are erupted against Gawadar, against CPEC, against Balochistan, it has everything to do with India, because India wants this to be unsuccessful. But here I am, very hopeful, and we all are very hopeful that all of these dreams, they would turn out to be nightmares for India one day. And our security forces, our intelligence services, they are 24/7 working on it, and day is not far when everything would be as smooth as a cookie, I must say. And my hopes are very high, and eventually we will see that CPEC is going to be the main game changer for Pakistan's economic endeavors, and it is going to be equally so important for China as well.
Well, definitely, of course, it is the biggest strategic asset, of course, that we have, and of course, the light at the end of the tunnel, as we call when we talk about economic revitalization. Shakeel, Ahmad, I'd like your comments as you, in your previous answer, talked about connectivity with regards to the Gawadar port and, of course, the Gawadar International Airport, both now being functional. Firstly, how do you see it being and acting as a transcontinental hub, considering, of course, the suitability it will have for the OPEC countries as well? And, of course, secondly, how do you see Pakistan further capitalizing on this port, as we have the Karachi port as well, and, of course, the Gawadar port now being operational? How could it be further capitalized on to its maximum potential, such as including and encouraging the private sector to, of course, use the Gawadar port as well?
The potential, if we talk about, the potential is unlimited. Not just on talking, I'm just saying being a Pakistani, something like that. So it's a data, it's a facts which substantiate this claim. So potential is unlimited. I just give you one example. There was a study which was conducted on 2015 to 2016 trade data of China. If China diverts its trade with the 6 countries through the Gawadar port, because that assumes, so all the operation things that have been happened, so the CPEC route has been developed, ML1 has been developed, and the road infrastructure is there. So China will save around about 70 to 71 billion US dollar annually on its transportation cost. Not only China, but also the trading partners. Those trading partner names are Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Netherlands, France, and Germany. So if China only do the trade with these 6 countries, so China can save, China and the trading partners, they can save, 7 countries can save the 70 billion. And Pakistan can earn 10 to 11 billion US dollar annually on the surface charges. So this is a one aspect of the trade I'm talking about, of the potential I'm talking about, transit trade. If we talk about a special economic zone, so the initial predictions, they shows that if the security situation improved, in the next 10 years, at least 5 to 10 years, at least there will be 10 billion US dollar investment in industry in the special economic zone of the Gawadar port. I'm talking about a Gawadar port special economic zone. I'm not talking about the other special economic zones which will be constructed under the CPEC. There's a special economic zone at the Gawadar port also. So there would be a 10 billion US dollar investment, and that will create 30,000 jobs only at the one site. So this is one example. If we give the facilitation and we erect the infrastructure for the transit route, for example, as Faisal was talking about from the Central Asia, and if we are talking about the Gulf, we are talking about China, we are talking about ASEAN, we are talking about the North Africa. So the potential will be huge. So we can earn much from this transit trade. But the fundamental thing where the things are stopped, there are two things. Number one, business environment. Our business environment is discouraging, is distorted. It's anti-business, as you can say in the nutshell. Inefficiency rules here. Corruption is the rampant. So what we can talk, we can satisfy ourselves. You can satisfy yourself by saying, so we have the potential. The businessman, he will ask, so what is the business situation? How I can start a business? For example, if you have take electricity connection by large, they can take 113 days. In the 4 months, you get the electricity connection if everything goes right. And if you look at Saudi Arabia, if you look at the UAE, they get the electricity connection in days, within days. So that is a difference, the business environment. Then you look at the tax system. There are the 35 plus different types of the tax agencies and organizations. So business environment is discouraging, which discourage the other investors to come in Pakistan. Second, security situation. We like it or not, the security is a big challenge at this point of the time for the CPEC and the CPEC related project, especially when the Chinese were attacked. So every investor became very cautious to come to the Pakistan. Even the Chinese investors become very cautious when they come to the Pakistan, because especially for China, the security situation is very important for China to put in the context or to make it easy to understand. And as you know, the Faisal knows that, and Pitafi also know, you also know, in the last few decades, China is following one child policy. When they lose one person, that means they are losing the whole family. So that is very important point which Pakistani leadership and the Pakistani security agencies have to understand. The security is so much important for the China and other investors.
Definitely. Farrukh Pitafi, I'd like your comments as we talk of the Gawadar port and of course the increased business and trade activity and of course how it's going to be utilized. Do you think the National Logistics Centre and of course logistics infrastructure in the country needs to be further enhanced and increased, because we're talking about trade and how it's going to benefit even the landlocked countries and of course the Central Asian republics?
Yeah, but that bit actually is very interesting, because I wanted to actually come clean, so to speak, on that matter. I started writing on Russia issue between 96 and 97, right? Because the Berlin Wall had fallen, the Cold War had ended, and Russia was going through hell at that time. Central Asia had freed itself, and at that time I started talking about Central Asia being cathedral of our civilization, and simultaneously our connection with our Russian brothers, also historical ones. So at that time I kept on writing that. All those pieces are in the papers, you can go and check out that records. But that is not all. Back in 2002, 2003, I prepared a strategy paper, so somewhere around 20, 30 pages. And I went to the then chairman, Joint Chief of Staff Committee, right, at that time, because General Musharraf was army chief, but also dictator or ruler. At that time, most of the military issues were actually handled by our chairman, Joint Chief of Staff Committee. So I went there and I presented that paper. In that, there were two arguments. One was connectivity with China. I believe that instead of CPEC, I called it PSEC, right? Pakistan-China Economic Corridor. The second one was Pakistan-Russia, not economic, cultural corridor. And I argued, subverting Peter the Great's hot waters was mentioned. Peter the Great's will. I said that we can always provide access to Russia, But in the immediate, what we can do is through Wakhan corridor or whatever, we can go to Central Asia, and because India keeps on saying that either you are our part or you are nobody, why not actually intellectually migrate to this Central Asia? I was very young, remember. How old were you, by the way?
I'm 26.
No, at that time you were not born,
Not
right?
born, yeah.
Okay. So at that time, these were my arguments. But what happened? One, I never got the credit for those ideas. Okay, then no biggie. The second thing was within 6 months, India started its evasive maneuvers, right? First, it was Hamid Karzai, who actually tried to go for Chabahar, and then Iran, Hamid Karzai, and by the way, I had done a stupid thing that there is a zero-sum game between Pakistan and Iran. Later on, I kept on saying, but because it is, the ideas are with somebody else's name on the copy now, not mine, I cannot amend them.
Right.
So at that time, they actually built the Chab-Bahar corridor that actually connected with Chab-Bahar with Afghanistan, and then they were actually trying to explore all the opportunities. But the point is that things leak in Pakistan. And the way I see it, Pakistan and India's competition has practically destroyed Afghanistan, right? Practically destroyed Afghanistan, and that's why state building could not go on. So I would suggest anybody who wants to connect to Central Asia, I love the idea. I love our Central Asian friends. I've been there, and they're beautiful people. But temper your ambition with a dose of reality. Because you cannot wish away India. And I wish someday India and Pakistan become such good partners that we can together actually explore Central Asia, right? Or build bridges there, rebuild Afghanistan. But that is hardly ever going to happen. So temper your ambition with dose of reality. What you have got in CPEC is a great opportunity. The only thing is there too, Indians are actually active in evasive maneuvers, right? Our friend Shakeel Ramay actually spoke about what? He spoke about our bureaucracy and our laws being anti-business. With due respect, the way I see it, India has actually upped its game because it has become very rich. It has, some kind of incursion into your systemic operations. And their bureaucracy also does strange things. And sometimes I'm astounded. For example, I give you one small example. It has nothing to do with CPEC. India and China fought a battle, right, over Ladakh.
Yes.
And at that time, sorry? Eastern Ladakh. Yeah, Ladakh, of course. At that time, India in a huff actually banned 24, 25, 26 apps of Chinese origin.
Yes.
Which included TikTok. After that, before America thinks about banning it, somebody in Pakistan actually in PTA just decided to ban it in the name of vulgarity, right? So the point is that, and then India, the argument that was made and the pressure that was built on TikTok was that India and Pakistan together are going to ban it, and they are going to force you to ban it, getting banned elsewhere as well. So my humble submission is, look at reality and actually temper your ambition, but be realistic. Think big, but keep it simple. Otherwise, the people, the opposition or opponents are going to always try to undermine it. By the way, because I mentioned the gentleman who was an official at that time, and he is still considered to be one of the geniuses that guides the organization, he is welcome to actually make a comment whenever he wants to on that matter as well.
Well, we'll definitely try to get that comment from him. Brother Faisal.
Won't happen, but okay.
Yeah, well, we'll still try. Brother Faisal, of course, when we talk about this propaganda against the CPEC, and of course, because it's a very big project and it has very big ambitions for not only just the two countries involved, but the region at large, but still we see a lot of propaganda that is a hindrance in this regional prosperity. How do you think that could be, of course, curbed down?
Yeah, obviously, Rafae, when we talk about propaganda against CPEC and somebody eyeing upon CPEC and wanting it to be a failure, we always talk about India, but beyond India, there are other forces as well sitting elsewhere in the world. And what they want to do is they want to make sure that they have a presence in East China Sea in shape of their troops, American troops in South Korea, in Japan, and then there are many countries in Far East where they do have presence in terms of keeping an eye on China, keeping an eye in East China Sea. But when it comes to South China Sea, of course, in shape of Quad, they mended their ways with India, and they actually tried to pose India against China. And of course, we know that India did get that kind of title from Americans in the region, in South China Sea. They are pretending to be another power, an equal power to China, and they want to, of course, pose a sort of threat to China at this hour. And that is why, I mean, Farrukh rightly pointed out, Eastern Ladakh, 38,000 square kilometer of Eastern Ladakh, China occupied it. And then Arunachal Pradesh, China is claiming 89,000 square kilometer there. China believes that it belongs to China. Arunachal Pradesh does not belong to India at all. And when it comes to, of course, India not being able to fight against a might like China, we know they only sent one major general under whose command they, within a month, they created the airfields, they created hell loads of things. They put the swarms as well, the Chinese I'm talking about. They kept India so much busy that eventually India thought to itself that it would be utter madness to pose a challenge to China because they can't compete it. Because, forget about beating China, it's like they can't compete it. And that is why they kept on trying to bring China on the table to, of course, negotiate. And we have been seeing that, defense secretary and then defense minister of India alongside couple of, lieutenant generals, they kept on going there for talks. And from the other side, we only saw one major general sitting from the other side, the Chinese side, as if they don't care at all. And they kept on saying that this is where we stand, or we won't give you a chance. And after 18 rounds of talks, what they did was they accepted the position of China, and they came back and started on the Indian channel, started claiming as if we have had the successful talks with China. Otherwise, I would call it a surrender. They have quietly surrendered their position in their reason being they can't compete. And I think these kind of things, the Western countries, especially the ones who have a trade war going on with the Chinese, they need to understand this, that they are, of course, trying their level best to have somebody to engage China, and they keep on, giving them sort of, alibis from there. They keep on engaging other rest of the countries in the region in terms of, facilitating and financing terrorism. I think all of these things, they need to be checked by America. And I can simply say that with the Trump taking the Oval Office now, I can expect some sense prevailing in terms that Trump, we all know he's a very good businessman. He's a genius when it comes to business. He can think otherwise. Before, in the previous regime, we saw that it was the deep state that was controlling America, and it was doing whatever they wanted. And Biden was just a stooge, Biden was just a pawn, and whatever the deep state was, of course, sort of puppeting him. He's been a puppet. Now is the chance. I'm pretty much sure that Trump would come to terms with it, and the kind of leverage India had in the previous regime, India would not have in coming 4 years. And if India is not having that leverage which it had previously, then of course I can simply see some caps being put on India. And if some caps are being put on India in that context, of course, it would be a win-win situation for Pakistan, for China, for America, for the regional countries, for all of the powerful countries. Why? Because India would be getting a cap to not engage in exporting terrorism.
Yeah.
We all know that India in recent times has been declared as a country that has been exporting terrorism not only to, of course, Pakistan, but throughout the world, even the Western countries. One of them got caught in New York in daylight, and the one of the action they did was in Canada, in which they murdered somebody. So all of these things, I think they will get a cap on it in coming days. Once that cap is fixed, of course, it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Well, of course, that's the way it should be. Shakeel, Ramay, I'd like your comments. First, regarding, of course, the tariff wars that we've seen and there's talk about recently. And secondly, when we talk about economy and, of course, and the Gawadar port, we talk about economic revitalization and out-of-the-box solutions. We know China is leading in, of course, the IT industry, in the e-commerce sectors, and Pakistan has a youth bulge that could capitalize on, as we've all talked about special economic zones. Do you think there could be e-commerce cities developed in Gawadar which could benefit not only the populace of Balochistan but give rise to e-commerce trends in the country?
Definitely, it can be built. We can look. If we look around, look at the third BR forum, where the President Xi Jinping has given a speech. That is very important speech to understand what would happen under BRI in the coming years. So one of the key area in that was the digital economy, so e-commerce. So China will be putting and establishing new as a special economic zones within China to facilitate, say, digital economy and the e-commerce, and they will also be repeating those pilot projects in other countries also under the BRI. Pakistan can attract investment under that. But again, coming back to, as my friend Pitafi was saying, the bureaucracy. So I give you one example from India, Pitafi. India started to build the special economic zones before the China. And look where China is today and where India is today. Because India also have somehow the bureaucracy like Pakistan. They have managed something like, because they're the bigger country, they're the bigger population, the geography and the bigger resources. That's why it seems they're the big economy. But they're like us. So their bureaucracy is like us. They are not doing the much which they should do. So tariff war, when the Faisal was talking about the caps on India, I don't see there would be any cap, because what I see, if from my perspective, maybe I'm wrong, but my perspective is India and Israel, they have the real friendship. Because if you look at the Greater Israel idea and the Akhand Bharat idea, so they both are the neighbors. So when they are the Akhand Bharat will be established according to their own point of view, and when the Greater Israel will be established, they will be the neighbors, and they will dictate this Asia and this region. So their friendship or their linkages are deep linkages with the Israel. We have to see how India play that card. So in the tariff war, I don't see that India will face much, because India is on their part and they are the hope, because it is also an economic rational. If you look at the economic size of China, it's 1.4 billion. If you look at the population of USA, it's a 400 million, around the 400 million. If you also count these all the European countries, it will come around the 1,000 or more than the 1,000 million. So they need a new market where they can invest, because their market is already saturated. But in Chinese market, there will be millions of people will be transiting from one class to other class, from middle class to the upper class, from lower class to the middle class. And with every transaction, so there would be $1 trillion economy will be produced. So China can face the problem of the tariffs. And therefore, they need the India. And India is cognizant of this fact. India want to exploit this situation. But here is Pakistan also a good market. Pakistan is also 250 million people market. Pakistan also play its card widely. But what we are doing, we are not moving. We are so addicted to the loans, we are unable to understand what are the dynamics and how to utilize on the investment. That is our real problem.
For Pitafi, your concluding remarks on how the conversation has shaped up.
I mean, India bit is very interesting, but I wanted to correct a couple of things earlier said along with that as well. I don't think, President Biden was any stooge of any kind. I think he was an honorable man. Of course, America has its own interest, which is pegged with somehow with Israel. So that was what kept on happening. I will see how decoupling takes place, as Shakeel was pointing out, between Israel and America under Donald Trump either. As yesterday it was pointed out that Donald Trump is actually more fond of, what do you call, Israel. But regardless of that, what exactly is the situation right now? Donald Trump, no doubt, is not only a genius. Tuesday was his first full day in government, right?
Yeah.
And the guy actually landed $500 billion worth of investment in AI infrastructure, which included Oracle, which included SoftBank, which also included OpenAI, right? It is called Project Stargate. I don't know why they chose that name, but they did, right? In the age of QAnon, if you use something like Stargate, so there is going to be conspiracy theory somewhere that perhaps aliens are coming to Earth. But regardless, this is the state of affairs. He's very gifted, right? And we have seen how he has actually maneuvered his way back to power. The concerns that you have to look at, and this goes to what he was trying to say and what our friend was. On one side is this belief that somehow India is always going to be their friend, right? I told you yesterday that Donald Trump actually views the world in a different way. He says that if you want to contain anybody, we can do it without any ally. If you want to contain China, we don't need so and so. We can go it alone, right? You want to actually contain North Korea, we can directly interact, which is true. These alliances were actually conceived during Cold War, right? Cold War has changed. The world has changed, right? Now you have planes which actually take you to one place, from one place to another within no time, right? With that kind of reach and the kind of economic prowess that he is actually promising and military buildup that he is actually promising to American people, India will have less leverage, right? Granted. But here comes the actual thing. Who is going to have more leverage? Us? No, right? Because India has more population, India has more money. Donald Trump, if he likes investment from, by the way, India has decided to take back 18,000, immigrants from India to, America, which had some shoddy papers, right? So they have already started playing to his better nature. India will have more, leeway. The only argument that I give, and that's why I think someday I'm going to actually write a book on evolution of my beautiful mind. I'm quoting, using Donald Trump's language, by the way, because I kept on coming up with many ideas. 10 years ago, I speak to an Indian minister and I said that in 1947, the whole concept was India and Pakistan going to be allies. So why don't we actually become allies, right? The point is, if there's any leverage, instead of hoping that it goes away, you work with it and you try to build your own leverage as well along with it, right? It has happened with so many countries. Japan actually built so many countries around it because when it modernized, it actually, there was this, I call it shedding. The olden, technologies were gifted to other countries and they became Asian tigers. So the point is that any country that is, and there comes the biggest problem with us South Asians. Shakeel was talking about their bureaucracy and ours. That is not the problem. The biggest problem is our mindset which is stuck in political zero-sum game. Because Chinese are very smart. They don't actually look at political issues at all. American Donald Trump is again going to actually talk about national power, but especially defined by economy, right? So I think that there is going to be leverage with all the countries which have money, because they, I mean, how big is UAE? It is smallest place, yes, right? But look at the kind of investment the market is actually taking to USA. Because of that, they have leverage. Any country which has money is always going to have leverage. Any country which is struggling with its economy is always going to have that problem. So that's why I keep on saying, tamp down your ambitions with a dose of reality and work with whosoever is ready to work with you, to make the country economically vital and viable. Once you do it, you can benefit from everything, right?
Definitely. We'll conclude it at that. I'd like to thank you all gentlemen, Shakeel, Ahmad, Ramay, Farrukh, Pitafi and Faisal for being part of the conversation. All of your views are highly appreciated. With that, we wrap up the debate for today. See you same time tomorrow. Till then, take care.